Hello, pet. You're listening to the Goddess Worship Podcast, and I'm your host, Goddess Sarona, the world's #1 hypnotic dominatrix. I created this podcast just for you, a special guide to help you understand what femdoms really want. If you want to be truly owned by a femdom, listen carefully to each episode and try to implement the advice that each femdom gives you. If you'd like to have more hands-on instruction and a guaranteed chance at ownership, you can join the waitlist for my Femdom submissive training. Ownership is only 10 weeks away. This week's episode is especially close to my heart. I'm joined by Beatrix Vale, Mommy Dom, Hypno Goddess, and someone I'm genuinely proud and lucky to call my friend. Keep listening to hear all of her insight, wisdom, and advice for subby good boys who long for a mommy they can truly serve. Awesome. Let's just get started with the first one. How did you first realize that you were dominant, and what drew you into working with submissive men?
Yes, I love thinking back on the journey
Mm.
that I've gone on because in my 20s actually I considered myself submissive. I thought I was submissive, and um I had a boyfriend introduce me to BDSM, and at that time, because I was so young and naive,
Mm.
I thought, like, in my mind I was thinking like whips and chains, and it was kind of nerve-wracking, but, you know, learned about it, and it was so exciting because I felt like for the first time there were words that gave meaning to how I felt, what I wanted to feel, what I wanted to experience.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so I spent a lot of time being submissive myself, and I would say when I reached my 30s, I I started like growing away from that. And now I have 0% submission inside of me. But it's been something that's kind of grown with me as a person. I kind of cherish that, I kind of align me growing as an adult woman to also growing as a person kink. And so when I think back to the first time that I realized I was dominant, it's shocked the hell out of me. I was dating this guy, and we did a lot of kind of experimenting in the bedroom.
Fun.
And there was one night where, like, well, let's try like you as a me. Um, I'm gonna tie you up, just like light bondage, and I'm just gonna be in charge. We didn't even call it femdom. We didn't call it anything. It was just I'm
Nice.
gonna take charge. So, I like fumbled around trying to tie his wrist behind him, and I remember that they weren't really tied, but he played along. And so anyway, and there was just a lot of teasing that was going on, and I was like, this is the most turned on I have ever felt in my life.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, before that night, I would have looked at being a submissive woman, years before then, being the hottest moments of my life. But
Yeah.
this was just different, feeling the power of having him so weak at my fingertips. And,
Mhm.
it was intoxicating. So I equate that to kind of the birth of who I am as a dominant woman
Mhm.
today. Another piece that really resonated with me in my history too was I was I went to a local BDSM night, at my local within my local community. And I still definitely, like, even after that role playing, I didn't really dig into anything. I was just experimenting, being kinky. I knew I just loved BDSM, period.
Yeah.
And so there was a night I forgot what they called it. It was something very, very cute, but it was a night where all the play scenes were only femdom. Like you had to have a female dominant and a male or female submissive, like no men tops or doms.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it was very, very hot. And I just kind of watched the whole night and I just again I fell in love. I was like, this is the most positive energy. Like I was feeding off of their power. It was again intoxicating. And
Yeah.
that's when I knew I had to go into it deeper.
Mm.
And at that time, luckily I had a friend that was willing to let me, like, practice on her, like, put on
Okay.
those femdom shoes and really try to feel it, and yeah, and that's the rest has been history. And a kind of ending piece of that is I do online sex work now, I do audio files, and then that actually started as selling my panties online. I was just needing to make extra I've always had a side hustle.
Yeah.
And so I had no idea like this online world existed for all these different things that people can do online. That turned into phone sex, and then that turned into, oh my gosh, I love doing audios. And so now I just get to be who I am. I get to be the goddess that I am because I truly believe I am a goddess in many ways. And, I get to just live that energy out into the world, and it is a dream come true.
I think that is so special. And I also, what you said about starting off being strictly submissive and then kind of evolving into your dominance. I think that not only does that resonate with me, I think that would resonate with a lot of dominant women, not even sex workers or people who are in, female led relationships who aren't professionals. Like, as women, I think we're taught to be submissive, you know?
Mhm.
It's like what I was saying earlier about society's view of not only gender, but, the roles of each gender within the confines of a relationship. And it does take time. I think every woman, unless they are extremely self-aware, starts off being submissive, and some of them, I think, don't ever evolve out of that, and some genuinely love it, and that's totally fine too. But in my mind, and I am sure you'll agree with this, I feel like women are meant to be dominant. Like, we're meant to be the
Mhm.
dominant one. And I'm not saying that men shouldn't also be assertive or whatever, but I do feel like it is a man's place to not concede, but like give that service, that reverence, that pleasure, that everything to what is the word that I want to say? Deference, to give that deference
Mhm.
to their dominant woman, whoever that may be, or multiple, if they serve multiple in their lives. I think that that is how things should be. So I love that. I think that's so inspiring.
Mhm. Mm. Yeah, I mean, something you said earlier, it made me think of when women are assertive and, um, really just assertive and very comfortable in their skin, society mostly will say, "Oh, well, she's just, bitchy or she's bossy."
Yeah, or she's difficult.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm. Where if a man is that way, that's how, quote, unquote, "he's supposed to act."
right.
Yeah, so I absolutely agree. I think that And when I say this, I mean, I put a lot of value in men. I love men, but I do feel like us as women are the superior gender. Just saying.
1,000% agree. 1,000%.
Yeah.
We are on the same page. And I think that the men who will listen to this podcast will also agree.
Hmm.
I think that we'll definitely get trolls who will come on and, be like, "What are you talking about? Men are the superior gender, whatever, blah blah blah. Penis, penis, penis." But but just I mean, I think that people like that are either extremely brainwashed by the patriarchy or just willfully ignorant because from what I have observed about men, you tell me if you've also observed this. Men like to be told what to do. Men enjoy that surrender. They enjoy giving up that control with someone that they trust, um, and being led. Men enjoy being led. And even in quote unquote heterosexual, normal, vanilla relationships, how often do you hear wives or girlfriends complaining about how their man can't do anything and how, they have to tell him how to do everything, which, this could devolve into a whole podcast about power dynamics
Yeah.
and exchanges of power, which is what it's about ultimately. Um, but this could go in a whole other direction that, we could talk about forever. But basically, the point that I'm trying to make is I completely agree with you. Women are superior, and the men who listen to this podcast will agree with that.
Mm. Well, and I think that men are doers. They like to
Yeah.
be,
Useful.
yes. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking of this quote. It really struck me when I heard it. I think it was on Sons of Anarchy. Gemma
Great
Teller.
show.
Yeah, Gemma Teller says, you know, women want to be, hold on. She says, men want to be, oh my gosh, I'm going to fuck up this quote.
You
Oh,
can Google it.
it's so femdom to me. It's essentially, let me Google it.
Yeah. Give me the good stuff.
Okay, only men need to be loved, women need to be wanted.
Mm. Yeah.
And to me, that is at the core of femdom. Um, Men need to be valued and loved and be told, good boy, and you did such a good job. And I think women, we just want to feel wanted, basically.
Yeah.
you know, um, that just was such a powerful statement there, in my opinion.
Okay. What do you think most submissive men get wrong when they first approach a dominatrix?
Mm. I I think that, and actually see this a lot in my online work. I
Mm.
think that a lot of men don't think, they just assume I don't have their best interests at heart. Um, that I'm just a cold, hard, money grabbing bitch.
Right. Of course. Well,
Um,
they have to pay to interact with you. How could you not be?
hmm
Right.
So, and I think it's easy too, especially when you do exude so much power and confidence, that I think that perhaps that men forget that women are still a real human being. Well, yes, I am very powerful and very confident. I'm still very much real, and I still care about, I still wish you well being.
Mhm.
I don't want to, even though I do want to make you grovel and sweat and leak. Yeah. I absolutely do want to deflate your ego. However,
Mm.
I want to do that um, only in a consensual setting. I want to do that on your terms as well. I don't want to push boundary. So I think that that is something that I've seen is they just, mm, yeah, they just don't see the big picture, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, and, I think also with I know that, and I could be wrong, but I know that every woman, even, how if she's a humiliatrix,
Mm.
has a soft side, and there is a time and a place for that balance, you know?
Right.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that that specifically plays into whether you're a professional or if you're in a dynamic that is not open to other people, like if you're in a relationship that is female led, or a combination, whatever you have going on, um, that plays into what is a scene versus what is real life, because those are two different things. So, yeah, in the confines of a scene, you could be a humiliatrix, you could be deflating a man's ego, you could be, doing cock and ball torture. Whatever happens after that comes aftercare, and whatever that looks like for whoever you're playing with, you and that person or that group of people, there is a place for that softness too. No matter if you are a humiliatrix or if you're someone who enjoys giving pain or if you're someone who enjoys, really torturing someone, because, there's people who are into that. Not me personally, but some people really love the pain. And after that, you have to take care of that person who's been put through a really big ordeal and be gentle with them and say, everything's okay. We're back now. We are safe. We are here, and that's over, you know?
Well,
So,
as soft as I can be in, that mommy dumb energy,
mhm.
I truly am, and the ones that know me very well will confirm that I actually am a sadist. Like my partner, I torture his balls, you know, and it. While I do that, I also am very loving, and like there's just the time and the place. So I think that some men may get that wrong, that, when you're approaching a woman for the first time, especially maybe as like a new submissive, she actually is a real human being. And I am going to talk to you like a human being, even though I don't know, a few hours later, I might, be slapping your balls or, you know, making you cry. We're still going to talk like we are on the same level.
Right.
hmm
Yeah.
But later we won't be.
That's right. After we negotiate boundaries and I understand where your limits are and we've talked about safe words, all bets are off. Your ass is mine. No, I completely agree with you there. I think people do have a tendency, not just men, human beings in general, really love to put things in neat little boxes and
Mhm.
make them one dimensional and say, this is all you are and this is all you can be. Um, a really good example of it is teen pop groups, which is a silly thing to say, but, like, I swear to God it makes sense. You know how, for example, the Jonas Brothers, growing up, Nick was the sweet, shy one, and Heaven was the forgettable one, and Joe was the hot one. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you get this title as a person, or people think of you as this one, and then they kind of exclude all the other facets of who you are. So when it comes to being a dominatrix, you have the title mommy dom, even though you do so much more and you are so much more than that, because that's a way that you market yourself. People see you sometimes, I think, only as that. And you're right. I think that that's a disservice, not only to you, but just like DOMs in general. You should, as a submissive man, you really should take the time to get to know the woman that you're approaching and understand, hey, this person does do this one thing, but that's not all they are and that's not all they do.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Question 3. Can you describe a moment where a submissive truly impressed you and what did he do right?
Hmm. So, it's gonna seem like I'm cheating, but I really could not think of a specific moment, or example, but I can absolutely tell you what moments have always impressed me,
Yes.
because when I was thinking about this question, I'm going through my memory, and there was a common denominator, and it was a few things. I love when a submissive can remember even like the littlest things about me, because to me that tells me you're paying attention and you care.
Right.
I love because especially when I'm getting like in full in those femdom shoes, it's all about me in that
Right.
moment. So if you remember the littlest thing and that comes up, and in that scene or even in just conversation, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Um, when a submissive also is extremely vulnerable, I find vulnerability so sexy.
Mhm.
Um, so that always impresses me, because it takes a bit of bravery to be vulnerable. And it's scary, I know that, and so when you're so willing to do that for me, I'm super impressed.
Yeah.
Also
Well, before you go on to the
Yeah.
next thing, let me ask a question there
Mhm.
just to clarify. What do you mean when you say vulnerability?
Mm. So, when when you remove all the layers, and for me, and when your emotions are raw, like super raw, um, when you admit things that you wouldn't admit to anyone else, I would say it's just that rawness, that
Yeah.
inner core that when it is exposed, amazing things happen, right?
Mhm.
But sometimes it hurts to do it, or it's embarrassing, or it makes you feel icky. Those moments are just incredibly sexy to me because that to me that is the ultimate gift.
Yeah. I agree with you. That's absolutely true. Um, and in a way, I do think that what we do as dominatrixes, whatever flavor you choose to do it in, um, is very therapeutic for the subs that we play with because it's like, in a way, I think a relief because they're able to kind of shed that heaviness and weight of being this one thing, going back to being, one dimensional, having to be this one thing or play this one role and never going outside of those lines. That's very strict and rigid. And a lot of times, I do think talking about vulnerability, men specifically would love to have a moment with someone where they could say, hey, I wanna set this down, and I wanna let go for a little while, and I wanna not have to be what society expects me to be, and I want to just follow you and obey you and go with you wherever you wanna take me, and in that moment of surrender, in that moment of vulnerability, I think that it is not only pleasurable, it's extremely therapeutic because getting to explore that different side of themselves that maybe they don't get to explore on a regular basis for whatever reason, um, is honestly life changing. And I don't know what you've experienced with your subs, but with mine, I constantly get messages and thank yous and things like that for creating that relationship and creating that space that's safe that they can come to me and express themselves.
Right. Yeah. And that kind of connects with the the last thing I was going to say that, truly impresses me is
Mm.
when a submissive not only is vulnerable, but because of that vulnerability, exhibits some growth. Um,
Yeah.
and to me, that's super impressive because that shows me you were truly vulnerable.
Mm.
And again, it's all about me. So I was able to, to help you. Um, but yeah, I mean, I am so confident in saying that I know that I make a difference in others' lives and men's lives and make a difference and help them feel things that are important to them and whatever kind of journey they're in. Um and it touches my heart and that's always going to impress me is a willingness to grow, a willingness to be vulnerable and just being real. I mean, just being authentic and genuine.
Right. And it is a little bit gratifying to know that you're the one that they come to open up and be vulnerable with in a sense as
Mhm.
well. With in a way, like gratifying and validating, like, yes, I get to see you. I get to be there for you. I don't know about you, but for me, it's really fun. Like,
Yeah. I mean, like, I hate to turn this I hate to turn everything into mommy dom, but
that's your thing. It's okay.
I think that there is well, for one, I have done some podcast episodes on this because there is such a huge misconception on what it is
Yeah.
and what it isn't. Um, and I feel like everything that we're talking about, and this is going to get very deep and very Freudian. A man becoming submissive is tapping into those feelings that he felt when he was a boy,
Yeah.
being guided by a woman, feeling safe around that woman,
Mhm.
being able to come to her for growth, being vulnerable and naughty, and
Yeah.
that being okay. I'm going to guide you and I'm going to show you.
Mhm.
Um, so there's a lot of times that people will come to me. I'm really not into the mommy thing, and I'm like, that's totally fine because I would argue with you that any kind of femdom is a little bit of mommy dom. It just is a label. Sometimes it's a name.
Right.
Sometimes that people need um, because us as women, we are. I think what makes one so superior and divine is that
Mm.
we naturally have that maternal, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to
Yeah.
guide you. I'm going to be here for you. But I also can put you in your place. And,
Right.
and I am someone to be feared. However, um, there's also these other sides that are very nurturing and very soft. Um, so yeah, like I said, sorry for bringing that in, but I
No.
sometimes I feel very well, a lot of times I feel super mm, passionate about it because I do
Yeah.
think there is, I would say 99% of the time it has nothing to do with family, you know.
Right.
And I know that that freaks people out. They're like, "Ooh," Well,
Yeah.
it really has nothing to do with that though. That term, mommy, um, is you're immediately giving me one of the most highest levels of respect on this earth,
Right.
you know, Mother Earth. I mean,
Right.
it, that is the ultimate form of you are immediately giving, metaphorically going to your knees, um,
Yeah.
just using that word.
I completely agree with you. I think that, first of all, yes, there is a big misconception around it. Because I mean, it's not as catchy to say nurturing woman dom, you know? Like, that's not as catchy and fun. But really, I think, yeah, you're right. And what's so special, I think, about the mommy dom um, aspect of things is that a lot I'm not even gonna say a lot, I'm gonna generalize here. Um, all men, as far as I'm aware, um, have that taken away from them forcibly as early as possible. That connection with their mother, that connection where they can be vulnerable with a woman, that connection where they can feel safe going to a woman to be led. Um, because again, going back to that point that we were talking about earlier about how men are trained and conditioned, just like women are trained to be submissive and obedient and subservient, men are trained to be the opposite, leaders and loud and take up space and do all these things that, then brings them into that one-dimensional space where they have to stay inside those rigid lines. And then someone like you who is providing a safe space for those men who want to experience that safety and that nurturing and that care is really special. And that's really important, I think, as well. It's an important thing that men come to you to experience.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Question 4. What kind of behavior or attitude turns you off right away when a sub reaches out to serve you?
Mm, yeah, I love this question.
I have so many thoughts.
First, I hate small talk. I hate it. I
Really? Give me
really
an example.
if I've never talked to you before, no, that is you have to keep that in mind. If I've never heard from you, we don't know each other,
Mm.
and the first thing you say, "How are you? Hi, how are you?"
Ah, okay.
And that's even in my personal life. That's just a me thing. I don't wanna do small talk.
Okay.
You know, if we're friends and you're like, "How are you?" I know you actually care, but if I don't
Right.
know you, no, like, if you're gonna come to me, I want you to come to me, like, immediately, like, "Here's state your purpose."
I think that that's very normal because if it's a stranger who just walks up to you and says hi, like imagine you're on the street and someone just walks up and says, "Hi, how are you?" That's weird. That is weird.
Mhm.
Um, but I do think for the men out there who may be listening, not even just in a kinky context, in general, men, I think, or at least I've seen several complaints about how they should approach a woman in a way that's not off-putting, specifically in a kinky context. Um, I think there's even more pressure added to that because they're talking to a dominant woman and they know that going into it. So, kind of going off of saying that you don't like that, how would you like for someone who wanted to be your submissive to approach you?
So, my advice would be, you know, if you're reaching out to me for the very first time ever, I like to know your intentions.
Mm,
Hi, I found you here. I was taken by XYZ.
mhm.
I'm interested in more, you know, whatever. Telling me what you want, being clear with your intentions. And I know that sounds funky because I'm saying that to submissive men,
Right.
but just because you are submissive doesn't make you, you know, the dirt under my shoe. Again, it goes back to there's a time and a place for that, you know, and a submissive man absolutely has, to me, all the right and the freedom to clearly state your intentions, you know, why you're communicating with me. Because the more that you give me, the better my response is going to be. My name is Joe Submissive, and I am a chastity sub. I found, giving me who you are up front is way better than, "Hi, how are you?"
Right.
Mhm.
I think that what you said about just because you're submissive doesn't mean you're the dirt under my shoe. Um, Related to that, I think that some men, not all men, but some men, especially younger men that I've noticed, they think that submissive means giving up all of the mental and emotional labor that you're meant to do as a human being. And I think this ties into that because you should be doing the research on the person that you're approaching and making it individual and unique to that person. So if someone came to you and said, "Hi, how are you?" I agree. I think that's lazy. Um, in that same vein, I think that there are a lot of men who approach and who think that if they interact with a dominant woman, they are allowed to be lazy because they think that domination equates with, they get to turn off completely and they just get to exist and be pleasured and kind of like topping from the bottom,
Mhm.
which is the biggest turnoff in the world. Um, so yeah, I think there could be a whole separate episode just about that. Like what
Absolutely.
not to do.
Well, and this kind of goes with the what we're talking about and towards the question, not only the small talk, but like the cookie cutter responses
Oh yeah.
that you're probably sending 20 other DOMs at the same
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
I can I can see, I can notice that and immediately in 1 second. And
Yeah.
I think it relates to the whole talking from the bot, like I want to be controlled.
Yeah.
I can't think of a good one, but that's really one
You know
I
what?
hmm?
I'm gonna pull up my FetLife profile, and I'm just gonna go into my inbox, and I'm gonna give you an example,
Yeah.
one that I think will be helpful. So here's one from a guy who's 23, he's a switch, and he says, "What would I have to do for you to put me under your complete, utter control?" Um, what do you think is wrong with that first message?
Yeah, read it one more time.
What would I have to do for you to put me under your complete, utter control?
Well, the language, what would I have to do?
Right.
What do I have to do? Well, that should be reworded to what I'm willing. That would be a little better,
Mhm.
telling me exactly what you're
Slightly
willing.
more respectful. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, and it's like immediately assuming that he's even worthy or you're
Right.
worthy. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
of that. And don't get me started on pet life. Oh my gosh. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's just
Yeah.
so
I don't
rough.
respond to most. Here's another, from another switch. "Hello, may I be your slave, please?"
Yeah, yeah, no.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely not. And I mean, for me, when I get lazy messages like that, not only do I get completely turned off and not respond, obviously, but there's so many levels to why that's a huge turnoff. And again, this could be its whole other episode, but basically it boils down to being respectful to the person that you're approaching. For me personally, I don't know about you, um, there are some people who don't like to be approached as a dominatrix right away. They prefer that people come to them and talk to them like a regular human being, which is good. I think that people should do that because we haven't negotiated or agreed on a dynamic. So you should not come to me as if you had already been accepted. Because again, assuming that you're worthy or whatever, don't do that. But I do like to be called by my title. So I don't want to be mistitled. Like if someone came to me and they said, "Hello, mistress," or "Hello, ma'am," or "Hello, Serona," I don't like that. That's an immediate turn off for me. I am called goddess, and I chose that honorific very specifically for a reason. So if you don't do the basic research to understand what I like to be called, automatically it's a no.
Mhm. Right. Well, and it also lets you know they're leading with their deck, you
Yeah,
know? Their
absolutely.
deck is in their hand in that moment, or something close to it,
Yeah.
and true submission is, way deeper
Oh, yeah.
than that deck.
Yeah, it is. And I've seen a lot of posts from male submissives online, which is why you and I are here right now having this talk. um, kind of not complaining, but a little bit despondent, kind of just really discouraged because they say they can't find a Dom. And in my opinion, there are so many wonderful Doms everywhere. To me, when I read those messages or those posts, what I'm reading is I'm not willing to do what it takes to meet these women where they are. I want someone who will come and meet me where I am. And that's not how this works. So I think a lot of submissive men need to understand you need to step it up.
Yeah. I've kinda learned through a lot of experience that the best things happen when you're not really, 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 really fucking trying.
Yeah.
The best things have happened to me when I'm not expecting it, and what I mean by that is, love, kink,
Yeah.
when I have been actively, like, really trying, it never it never shows up. It's like and then that makes me give up.
Right.
When I think there's something to be said about when you're just yourself, when you're being your most authentic self, what you deserve will come to you. What you want will find its way.
I think that there is a lot to be said for not trying to be what you think someone else wants you to be, or trying to present yourself in a certain way so that someone will accept you or like you, or working so hard to reach a goal that you kind of misalign from who you really are. Just kind of being yourself, being who you are, giving yourself the space in the room to be authentic, um, really will help align you with what's meant for you. Absolutely.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. How do you build trust with a new submissive before you start training or playing with them?
I think one of the most important things is just simple communication,
Yeah.
um, and that's from both parties. The more I communicate, the more you're gonna trust me because you're getting to know me, and vice versa. Because we have to train, or not train, we have to trust the submissive as well.
Right. It
Um,
is a relationship. It does go
mhm,
both ways. Yeah.
yeah. I think that getting to know one another is important, and even outside of the kinky stuff, I think when you start learning that the other on both sides is a person that likes, whatever, cats or, it makes them real.
Yeah.
And the kind of dynamic I'm looking for is authentic and super genuine. So, like, if I can see that you're a real person and really adore these certain things about you, it just makes me want to own you even more.
Mm.
Um, and I think that sharing myself, and, this only happens when I feel like I have to feel really comfortable, that sharing myself can help build that trust, from that submissive man to me. I think I mentioned it earlier, just I think magical things happen when, of course, you realize this woman is an absolute goddess, but
Mm,
also, man, I really like these other things that aren't even sexual or kinky.
right.
I really like that, and that just, in my opinion, just elevates, my status as your goddess.
Ooh, this is a good question. I like this question a lot. What's the difference, in your opinion, between a man who acts submissive and one who is submissive?
Yeah, I agree with this one was one of the best questions because it really stopped me and really makes me think.
Thank you.
Um, and it's a very complex
It is.
question.
It really
Um,
is.
yeah, because I think that sometimes being submissive is sometimes almost like a spectrum. I
Yeah.
think, you know, most people have some kind of submissive trait in some way or
Yeah.
another. But, however, I know for a fact that there are men who are inherently submissive
Mhm.
and they've been seeking ways to fill a void their whole life.
Mm.
I can think back on men I've gotten to know where they have that story, and I love the origin stories. Like,
Oh, yeah.
how did you realize, you were into this? And it's like they've spent their whole life chasing after that, or not even chasing. Some are chasing it, but
Mm.
some are, you know, just finding different ways to fill that void. And it's just something that they have to have.
Mhm.
Um, and so I also I also think, and this is something I feel so passionately about, I think that even though if you are one of those men that are just 100% submissive, right?
Right.
That that does not equal you not being a strong person because I have known some very strong men that are some of the most submissive men I've ever witnessed, and that those two statements, strong and submissive, I think to some people are confusing, but
Yeah.
I really think that men that totally own their submission are the real MVPs of men because they have the balls to do that when all these cards are against them and they're just like, fuck it. This is who I am. This is what I want to do. I need it. I want it. Um, and that submissiveness is something that becomes like a necessity and a need inside of them. And I think that fake, um, I'm calling it like fake submission.
Mm.
I think that's fine when people do that because there are people who explore and role play and that's fine. I think that, if you want to experience what it's like to be controlled by a woman, great. And I think how I recognize that, that's what really got me thinking, how do I recognize that? It's I can tell when someone's saying what they think I want to hear.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna play this role, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm definitely not saying that. Um, so yeah, I I I love going back to the true submissives. I just I have a lot, and this is gonna sound funky. I have a lot of respect for those genuinely submissive men because they've they've gone on a really, you know, important journey. And I think that, like, I find a lot of value in that, a
Yeah.
lot of fucking value.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. I mean, everything that you're saying is true. I think that it's so valuable to have a man who not only can own his vulnerability because being submissive is very vulnerable. Um, I think that someone who can look at society's expectations of who they are meant to be and understand, like, yeah, I can fulfill that role. And when I need to, I will. But really, what I crave, what I desire, who I am is this. And this is what I want. And being able to proudly walk in that and experience that and brave enough to go out and say, hey, you know, reach out to someone like you or like me and say, hey, I would really love to experience this with you. And I'm trusting you to be a safe space for me to do that. I think that's really beautiful and really powerful. Okay. Can you walk me through how you guide a submissive into real surrender and what does that look like in action?
Mm, yes, what a sexy question.
Mm,
I think that it is dependent on who the submissive is. But I think what is common for me is the whole breaking them down to build them back up.
mm,
Um, I think that a lot of submissive men are craving, in one way or another, that masculine ego to be deflated or creating that weakness. And,
yeah.
and part of the art of doming is being able to turn that then into surrender. It's because to me, I feel most powerful when I am deflating a man's ego. Like nothing is more hot to me than that. And that's coming from, again, I'll throw it in there, that's coming from a mommy dom.
Mm,
Even a mommy dom dynamic, there is some ego deflating.
mm.
There is some breaking down to build you back up in my image.
Okay. Have you ever had a submissive push a boundary or make a mistake? And how did you handle it?
Um, thinking about this, I really can't think of a time where boundaries have been crossed with
Mm,
me. Um, and I think that when the communication is clear
yeah.
and the dynamic is truly genuine, there's that space, or safe space, the container, the playground, whatever it is,
Yeah.
where everyone can explore deeper and safely and all that good stuff. Um, but going on mistakes, for me, mistakes aren't truly like a catastrophe moment
Yeah.
because it's normal and it's real life.
Right.
I
And
can't
we're
expect,
human people.
yeah, I can't expect anyone to be perfect,
Right.
but I will decide and find out, if it was an honest mistake, because if it is, we can move on and it can be a teaching moment.
Right.
Um, like for me, I don't like brats. Like, please don't.
Same. I'm not a brat tamer.
Yeah, I don't have
Uh,
time for that. Like,
no.
gross.
Too much work.
um, so if if it wasn't an honest mistake, then that means you're a brat, and I probably did not do a good job getting to know you, or you weren't honest with me
Right.
because I'm not gonna play a brat's game.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's mistakes are fine with me, and I'm consider myself a very mm, flexible dom.
Yeah.
I'm very easygoing, and this is coming from someone that is gets off on torturing balls. I'm still very flexible, um,
Right.
especially when it comes to an honest mistake.
Um, okay. This is a good segue, I think, from what we were just talking about. What does good communication look like from a sub, both inside and outside of a scene?
Hmm. Yeah, I really like this question because of how, just the different scenarios there. I
Yeah.
think that for me, inside of a scene, the best way to communicate is being responsive,
Mhm.
like physically. Um, and I can relate to this being a submissive back in the day. I when I get submissive, I get, there's no words that are gonna come out of my mouth unless you're telling me exactly what to say.
Right.
So, and I get that because if you do hit a subspace, you don't wanna talk. Like,
Right.
uh, so being as responsive as you can, that's natural though,
Yeah.
and not played up to fit what you think should be happening. Um, and of course the safe words to protect everyone involved in that moment.
Absolutely.
But, and then outside of the scene, well, and before I move on, I think that inside of a scene, because I do, and I'm sure that you'll either talk about this a lot on this podcast or, but part of being a good dom is being completely mindful
Mm.
of not only yourself, but the submissive. So, like asking questions and checking in,
Yeah.
And what I like to do in that moment is setting like a number scale to the question I'm asking because I do recognize sometimes it's hard to form words in
Yeah.
certain moments. So, like on a scale from 1 to 10, how close to you are coming, or
Mm.
scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling about XYZ?
Mm.
Just checking the temperature of that scene to me is important. And then outside of it is I just expect complete honesty and vulnerability.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me everything. And I'm a very curious, uh, I guess, like a curious dom. I like to know all the things. Like,
Same.
I want to know why you feel this way. I want you to tell me every single thought that's going on in your head about what I asked you.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
because the more you give me, the better experience we're both going to have.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I completely agree. I I think sometimes I don't think I get on my subs' nerves, but I think that it's a running joke that I commonly like I will respond if they tell me anything that I find interesting, I'll say, "Why is that? Why is that? Why is that something that is happening? Why do you
Mhm.
think that?" Things like that, you know?
Yeah.
That's my common response, like, if they say something that piques my interest, I'm like, "Mm, tell me more, please." Um, but yeah, no, I am also super curious, and I think that total honesty is really the only way that a dynamic like this could possibly go anywhere. Because if
Mhm.
you're not honest about where you're at, how you feel, what you desire, what you want to try, or what you didn't like, whatever, then that's a really good way to hurt yourself and hurt the person that you're playing with. So it's really irresponsible to not be vulnerable and honest with the person
And
that you're
and you're not gonna upset us if you tell your dom that you didn't like something,
Yeah,
because the more if we just keep doing it, we're gonna be upset that you allowed us to keep doing it because
right.
I mean we don't want to continue doing something you don't like. So,
Yeah,
that's not you're not going to disappoint in any type of way.
right. I think that's something that's very beneficial. I mean, if there are like, if you're in a dynamic where you have structured playtime where, okay, so at this time, we're having a scene and then aftercare, and then after aftercare, we have a talk about the scene. Um, making that safe moment to really open up and talk about what has just happened is really beneficial. But I mean, it's different for I don't wanna say couple because every dynamic, I guess I should say. It's different for everyone how they handle that. As long as there's a space that you've created to be vulnerable and open up,
Mhm.
that's what's important.
Yeah.
And I
Abs
wanna go back to what you said about temperature checks. I love that. I love that idea. I've never, thought about it that way, but I love the temperature check thing. I think that's fantastic because when I'm playing with a sub, normally I'll say, like, "How are you feeling?" And they'll say, "Good," or, I just use red, yellow, green for the safe
Mhm.
words. Um, so, "How are you feeling?" Red, yellow, green, something like that.
Mhm.
Um, but I love the temperature check. I think that's a lot simpler.
Yeah, and you know, I think that because and it could just be a me thing because I do become so mute almost when I
Yeah.
get when I've gotten into subspace and before. So like to boil it down to something very simple, I
Mm.
think is that and hypnosis even more perfect because I don't want you thinking that much.
What advice would you give to a man who wants to serve a dominant woman the right way?
Hmm. I think, and this is going to feel repetitive. I feel like this theme has come up a lot,
Yeah.
um, but be you. I mean,
Mm.
uniquely you. Be for sure confident in your needs and wants as a submissive man, because we're not mind readers.
Right.
Um, and never act from a place where you're doing things, that you think we want. And
Yeah.
what I mean, obviously, we want to worry about what we want as a dominant, but that shouldn't be why you are acting that way. Like, it has to be it's a dynamic. There's 2 people involved, you know?
Right.
Um Be the other piece of advice is just being open and
Mm.
honest with not only yourself, but your dom, and treating the goddess of a woman that you're serving like she's also a person, and not just the goddess that she is. I truly believe that even doms need aftercare, and I think that gets forgotten sometimes,
Yeah.
because we become vulnerable too, and especially in more intense kind of scenes.
Right.
I think that doms absolutely need a little bit of aftercare as well. So that's my advice.
I think that's great advice. And I think that a lot of people probably need to hear it. Because uh it's really easy to get caught up in the fantasy of it, the play aspect of it, the sexiness of it, you know? It's really easy to get caught up in that arousal and that kind of subspace that can take people away, and understanding that even though you are experiencing these incredible highs together as play partners, um, you're still people and you still have human, emotional, mental, physical needs that you have to meet outside of playtime. And
Hmm.
I completely agree with what you're saying about Doms need aftercare too, because we give so much physically and mentally and emotionally to every sub that we play with or that we interact with. Even just having a conversation, if someone is opening up to you and giving you their emotional vulnerability and telling you possibly their secrets, telling you, you know, things that are really vulnerable and expecting you to have the space to hold those things and be gentle with those things and give them an experience that is validating for them, it's a lot.
Mhm.
It is. And doing all of that is not easy. Not everyone can do it. And so it is important that subs also are mindful of that and try to give DOMs care as well. Okay, last question. What do you wish every submissive understood about what dominant women really want?
Mm. Man, I think that dominant woman, I think this would be applicable to most women, is we want to feel powerful. We want to feel like the badass woman we really are.
Mm,
So if you can feed that, you're gonna have it made with a dominant because
absolutely.
we're going to be patting your head a lot. Um,
Mhm. Lots of good boys.
yes. Because yeah, and that's why I'm addicted to what I do because I love feeling powerful like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's so arousing, it's so motivating, and I want more and more and more. Um, and and a more serious topic is, and I would imagine that most dominant women would say the same, is we really just want authenticity
Mm,
and just a genuine kind of surrender.
yeah.
Unless you're doing that kind of role play, I'm just trying this on type of deal.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Truly surrendering yourself in a very authentic way is what we want. And
Mm,
and if things have been established, if that communication was there, if the honesty was there, that's going to be the easiest thing you can do
right.
is to truly surrender in an authentic way.
Yeah. I think that not only is that vitally important to the dynamic, I think that being able to pay attention to your dominant and understand, you know, specifically about her, what her likes, her needs, her wants, her desires are, and being the man who does the most to meet them. Even something as simple as, if you go on somebody's throne and you see that they have something there that's like a little treat, and you just randomly throughout the month or whatever get them that little treat, and say, I don't know how you like to be addressed. Do you like that your subs call you mommy? How do you like them to call you?
They have options because not
Mhm.
everyone comes to me that wants mommy. So it's either goddess
Okay.
mommy, or mommy.
Okay. I love
Sometimes
that.
mistress.
Very fun. Okay, mixing it up.
Hmm.
So for example, if you have a throne,
I do.
if a submissive was trying to impress you or trying to be a really good submissive for you, they could go on your throne and like even something as simple as buying you incense that you would really like and getting that for you as an act of service, as a way to make you smile. Small things like that are important too.
Like this is kind of tied to this. Something that really like caught my attention recently was
Mm,
someone asking or hearing me say they must have heard it because they didn't ask me. They heard it somewhere
mm,
that I really like the smell of eucalyptus.
mm,
And what he did is he went and bought a diffuser, and every time he listens to my files, he turns that on, and
mm.
um, that's his way of submitting even deeper. And
Yeah.
that was like really very meaningful and kind of showed me. how much deeper he wanted me in his life.
Yeah.
Um, and I thought about earlier when I was going to change the subject.
Mhm.
Um, it's actually a question on one of those, or an answer on one of the questions we skipped. Like, if you can anticipate a dom's needs, um, you are going to gain all the effing brownie points in the
Oh.
best way. My partner does this so perfectly. Like, without me even asking, he'll bring in my water bottle that's been refreshed with ice and water, before I even know it's empty. You know,
Mhm.
the things like that mean the world. And I always tell my people, because I never want to come across like, oh, the only way you're going to get my attention is if you buy me things, right?
Right.
Even just because and I know you feel the same, we like to feel powerful.
Oh, yeah.
So if you can scream that from the rooftops, wherever you can, whether it's, in your Discord or on Reddit or wherever,
Right.
that is another amazing thing that you can do. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just, and it's the same thing. Well, sort of the same thing, finding our buttons and pressing them. So if you know that
Mhm.
Goddess Serena loves to feel powerful, how many times a day can you make her feel powerful?
That's a dangerous game, to be honest. That really is. I'm not shy about letting people know what my buttons are. I am very upfront about this is what I like, this is what I want you to do for me. Um, and you hit the nail on the head. Nothing it's arousing for me. I get turned on by acts of service. That's my thing. So, for example, that submissive that I talked about earlier who gets a pass, he not only has he been with me from day 1, but he is the first one to volunteer, and he asks me constantly, "How can I help you? What can I do for you?" Um, and that is so sexy to me. I find that so hot, and I have a running joke with him actually. Like, there's a little GIF that I send him every time he asks me that, and it's like, you've probably seen it. It's this woman, and it's just like a shot of her feet and her panties dropping, and the little text on it is like, "There go my panties." I send that to him every single time that he steps up, and I'll see him from time to time because he's an admin on my Discord, and I'll see him from time to time just in there doing stuff. Like, he knows stuff that I want done, and he'll just be in there doing it, and I get the notifications that stuff is being done, and that gets me hot. I'm not gonna lie. I get really hot and bothered about that. So, yeah, absolutely. I think if a submissive really wants to impress and stand out to a dominant woman, I think finding what it is that she wants and doing that and finding ways to do that for her, um, I think that's their golden ticket. I think that that is the smartest and the most submissive that they can be.
Yeah, that's how you get the attention for sure.
Absolutely. And that's all for this episode of the Goddess Worship Podcast. Thanks for listening. Comment below and let me know who you'd like me to interview next, or any questions that you'd like for me to answer for you. Until next time, goodbye, pet.